Good morning all and welcome to our event this morning, focusing on the Canadian market. My name is Andrew Jones and I'm one of Welsh Government's International Trade Advisors. I also take the lead on Welsh Government's MedTech and Diagnostics Cluster. Canada is a priority market for Welsh Government this year. It is a priority market and this year there is added significance that it is Wales and Canada year. Welsh Government and our partners are running a range of the excellent opportunities available for Welsh SMEs like yourselves in a broad range of sectors. I'm also delighted to confirm Welsh Government will be taking a trade mission to Canada in September. So if after today's session you're interested in joining the trade mission, please do get in touch. Welsh Government is offering an excellent subsidised package for Welsh who want to get their toes into the market for the first time, or indeed establish exporters. I shall hand you over to Terry Potter from IBDD shortly, one of our contractors we work very closely with. Terry will be hosting the event today and will introduce our excellent speakers. But let me run through some quick moment. Can you please ensure your audio and video turned off? Can you use the chat in the Q&A session at the end of the webinar? We'll endeavour to respond to all questions. After the webinar, we will email you a short post-webinar questionnaire. We welcome your feedback, as this really does help us develop these type of events for the future. So there's just a brief introduction anyway. Really hope you enjoy this morning. There's an excellent agenda as Nick put up here. Let me hand you over to Terry now. We'll sort of Terry.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. We had a bit of problem with the sound there, and hopefully this is clearer now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session on developing business in Canada. As Andrew introduced me, my name's Terry Potter, and our company at IBDG has been working with the Welsh Government for over 20 years now. We work with Welsh companies closely on many different export promotion programmes, such as ITD and ITO, which I'm sure many of you will be familiar with. Today, we hope to give you some insight into the Canadian market and provide enough information for you to decide if it's a market you might like to explore further. I'll hand over to Darlene Duggan in a moment, who will deliver our presentation. For background, Darlene is president of the Canadian firm, the Duggan International Group, which was established in 2004 to help companies grow and succeed both into and out of Canada. As a business consultant, Darlene specialises in helping her clients to develop their international market entry strategies. She has invaluable insight into companies doing business in Canada, their challenges, failures, and most importantly, their successes. She also partners with governments, economic development agencies and associations on international trade projects. Darlene has 30 years of business and marketing experience, and running a professional service company, she's aware of which sectors to target that have most potential for growth and sustainability. She works across multiple sectors, including clean tech, food and beverage, creative industries, ocean technology, energy, manufacturing, ICT, experiential tourism and consumer products, so right across the board. Darlene is also a former trade commissioner with the Canadian government and has global connections to help her clients reach new markets. Later, we'll also have a short case study from Ben Simons of BCB International, located in Cardiff, who will talk about his company's experience of developing business in Canada. So I'd like to hand over to Darlene now, and I hope you all enjoy the session. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. I'm very happy to be here today to deliver this presentation on the Canadian business opportunities for Welsh exporters. So maybe we can start with our first slide. So why Canada? Click. So of course we have Céline Dion, who is one of our most famous French-Canadian singers. And Céline, her former husband, who's now deceased, he was French-Canadian of Lebanese descent. Next. Then we have Drake, who's probably another very, very famous Canadian rapper, as well as he's an actor. And as you can see, he's also from African descent, and as well, Drake is Jewish. Next. And here we have Sandra Oh. Sandra Oh is from Ottawa. She is an actress. You know, she's done a lot of work in the UK recently. And we're very proud of, and that's only like just a bit of the stars. We have a ton of stars you may think are American, but are actually Canadian. But not only do we have actors and actresses and singers, Canadians are known for their inventions. Next. Insulin. A Canadian invented insulin. Next. The IMAX Theater. Now, I'm told if you go to see Top Gun this weekend, seeing it in IMAX is perfect. So yes, that was invented by a Canadian. Next. Peanut butter. Even I didn't know this one when I was doing my research. Peanut butter was invented by a Canadian, something that all children and all adults love across the world. Next. The pacemaker. Very important. Canadians do lead in a lot of life sciences, as you can see with insulin. A Canadian invented the pacemaker. Next. And finally, our fearless leader, our president, Justin Trudeau, who is known around the world as well for international relations. So there's a lot to do with Canada. Canada's very varied, and we have a great culture and a great innovation system. Next. So here's some basic info about Canada. We are a member of the Commonwealth. So when it comes to contracting, sometimes if things are open to Commonwealth countries, you know, that's good. You know, we have the same system. You know, we have 10 provinces, 3 territories. And it's good to know for anyone exporting, each province has their own government. So in Nova Scotia, where I am, it's conservative. However, our federal government is liberal, and there's also the NDP. So each have their own nuances and ties. So it's good to know who's in power where you're doing business. We are a very large country. Some people don't really think about Canada as being so large because our population is only 38 million. But it is closer for me to fly to Wales than it is for me to fly to BC. So it's a very big country. We have 2 official languages, English and French. You don't have to have French to do business in Canada. However, I'll talk about it later, that French is important when it comes to exporting. We are a very multicultural country. Our original people were First Nation, so we call them Indigenous now. So those are our First Nations, so that's straight across the country. Our other original peoples are Métis. Métis means they're of European, mainly French descent from the Red River Valley in Manitoba, and the Inuit who live more up north. So if you're doing business in Canada, you really need to understand the multicultural landscape of the country. Next. Now, this is kind of a busy map, but it has all the information there. You know, Canada has 14 trade agreements around the world, and they're always working on new agreements. So if you open up a business in Canada, you have access to these trade agreements. You know, in most companies that, you know, open up a business in Canada, a lot do so because our free trade agreement with the US and Mexico. So if you open up a business and establish a business here, you can take advantage of those trade agreements. And when I talked about being multicultural, you know, we have 200 spoken languages, but it depends on which province you're in. In where I'm at in Nova Scotia, Arabic is becoming more and more prevalent. New Brunswick is the only bilingual province in Canada. You know, you might think it's Quebec, but they're officially not bilingual. Quebec, you know, mainly French. You know, Ontario, you'll have everything. And as you go out west, it changes as well. In British Columbia, there's more of an Asian population from China as well as from India. And as you can see by the map as well, the population density, most people live closer to the US border. And for obvious reasons, the more you go north, the colder it is. So when the country was being established, you know, it was around farming and fishing and natural resources. So if you see people, the yellow up in Alberta, up north, well, those people are up there working in the oil fields. And as well, transportation. If you're shipping to Canada, if you're shipping by ocean, you most likely will come into Halifax. You could come into St. John's, Newfoundland, or you could come into New Brunswick, St. John, New Brunswick. But a lot of options are, it'll come into Halifax and it'll be put on rail. We have a national railway system that'll go across the country. Or it'll go up the St. Lawrence Seaway and down to Montreal and Toronto. Montreal and Toronto are, you know, the hubs of a lot of export, and a lot of goods come into there as well as consolidation. So especially for a lot of food products, they'll come into there. So, you know, it all depends on what you're shipping, you know, the weight. You know, ocean is the most affordable, but, you know, recently the prices for shipping have tripled. Especially for, you know, ocean as well as truck, because things will come in and by container and they'll be put on trucks and shipped across the country, as well as rail. Rail is obviously cheaper than trucks as well. But there are a lot of opportunities to get your products, you know, by air. You know, the main points are Toronto again, Montreal, Halifax. All the major cities have international airports. You know, and yeah, if you're shipping food, you know, you have to look at which ones have cold storage facilities and where your customer base is. So that's, you know, it's really important to do your research and understand where your customer base is in Canada, you know, and how to reach them and what's most economical. Okay, next. Trade with Canada. So, you know, Wales does do business with Canada. You know, you may, some of you probably weren't aware, but we are the 10th largest export market for Wales, the 14th largest import market with around 2.1% of Wales' total goods. So I'm not going to go over all these figures, but petroleum products, you know, medical and pharmaceutical, a lot of iron and steel exports came from Wales, and that's good to know because I know for a fact that we've been buying cheap steel from India, and that has not worked out well as far as for our project in Newfoundland. So that's something to consider if you're in that business. Non-ferrous metals and cereals. and cereal preparation. And that's interesting too, because we have a lot of pulses out west. You know, that's where our farmland is for grains, wheat and whatnot. So so the export of cereal preparations, that's an interesting figure for me. Next. Now, we have a database in Canada that anybody can access online called Trade Data Online. So I went on and I looked at, okay, what's coming? So you can't bring it down to what's exported from Wales, but you can from the UK. So I went on and I thought, okay, so what are the top 25 exports? So if you're in this, you know that someone is exporting this product from the UK. So therefore, you know, these are the types of things that we're buying. And this is also where you're going to have competition. Next slide. However, I also looked at what's coming from Western Europe, because if things are coming in from Western Europe and not from the UK, you know that we're buying these goods from this part of the country, or this part of the world, sorry. So you look at things like leather, tools, footwear, you know, and I'm going to assume that some of this comes from Spain, Italy, Germany. But if you're in this business, this is where there could be an opportunity, because it's not coming from the UK, and the UK will have a different trade agreement soon that's not under CETA. So there could be opportunities here. Now, you can go on Trade Data Online and enter in, and it doesn't do services, it only does goods, and enter in what you export and see what currently is being exported to Canada and from where. And that's good for your market entrance strategy, so you can figure out who your competition is and where is it coming from. Next. So opportunities in Canada. Now, you know, as a former trade commissioner, we always said, you know, just because the market's saturated doesn't mean you don't have an opportunity. There's always an opportunity if you have a good product and a good service. And until you go to the market and do your research, you don't know until you look at what's out there. But in general, a lot of our opportunities right now is in aerospace and defense. We are the 5th largest aerospace market with US 24 billion. Now, you know, as everybody's aware, with the war in the Ukraine, more and more money is being spent on defense. And with us shipping goods over to the Ukraine, we're going to need to, you know, make more, or, you know, the more people, the more they're spending, the more they're going to have to replace what's being shipped over. So if you're in this industry, it's a really good industry to get into, and it depends on what you're producing. You may have to partner with a Canadian company, but aerospace and defense is one of the top opportunities within the country. Food and beverage, you know, as long as it's a high value agriculture product, you know, things are doing really well. Food is doing really well. I know cheeses do really well since CETA. A lot of European cheeses are coming over, which is great for me. That's what I like. And I know there's one from Wales that Costco brings in. But food and beverage, obviously, anything that's new, it's different, you know, it could be a new flavor. Canadians like to try things that are a little bit new, but it's all how you position it in the marketplace as well. It can be new, but it's the quality and what's different about it, and you know, and it really depends on your target market. Eco products, with the high price of gas, and you know, and to you it may not seem high, but over here it's high. So right now we're paying around $2 a gallon. You know, it costs me quite a bit to fill up my car now, and Canada really wants to start looking at batteries. And there's a lot of research going on right now in the battery field. They're looking at bringing in electric buses, electric ferries, e-bikes. There's just a startup recently I saw that's making e-bikes. So anything that's eco, that doesn't depend on gas, there's an opportunity. Renewable energy. So, you know, we are very oil and gas dependent here. We do have natural gas offshore, and as well, we have oil in Alberta. But what we're doing more and more now is looking at hydro, wind off and onshore. We're working a lot with the UK government and Scotland on onshore and offshore windmills. Nothing's been started yet on the offshore industry, and biomass. So if you're, I know right now there's a big international oil and gas show in Calgary. So if you're in that business, that's the place where you need to be right now. But there is lots of opportunity in renewable energy. Next. AI. So artificial intelligence. The government is supporting AI projects. So if you are into AI and you want to partner with a Canadian company and help develop any kind of a new technology or new innovation, that's a good area to be in at the moment. So there's lots of opportunities in AI. Consumer products. You know, like I said, we are a diverse country with a lot of different cultures. And e-commerce is a good way to enter Canada and, you know, selling online. Now, when COVID hit, e-commerce sales went through the roof. So now people have gotten back to going to the brick and mortar stores. But there is a segment of the population, and I say mostly, I'm going to say millennials, that are still ordering a lot through e-commerce. So that is a good way to test the market as well. Building products. Since COVID, building products have gone through the roof, the prices, and also the availability. Goods have been hard to get. So if you have something in builder products that's of high quality and affordable, and like I said, being affordable is the issue because it's a long way to ship it to Canada from Wales. So it depends on what it is, but building products, you know, is a good opportunity as well. And remember that the USA is your biggest competitor. They're right next door. Trade flows back and forth easily across the border. You know, when you look at the US, you always count it by times it by 10. So if the population is 38 million here, we times it by 10 to figure out what's going on in the US. So everything is always times by 10 when you're doing business in Canada, or divided by 10 to the USA. But, you know, that's your biggest competitor. And so you really need to figure out how to compete in that marketplace. As far as the service industry is concerned, and life sciences and AI, and all that area, Montreal, that area is very big on life sciences, you know, and we've seen since COVID, we shouldn't be depending on foreign producers. So if you're in the drug market, or if you're in any type of medical market, there's lots of opportunity, but you should partner with a Canadian company. I think you'd have an easier time getting into the country as well if you're partnered. Next. Trade agreements. So we had CETA for the longest time, you know, and been promoting CETA, but now since Brexit, Canada and the UK have a continuity agreement called TCA. It's still in negotiations, but I'm told it's very close to CETA and there won't be that many changes. But like I said, it's still in negotiations, so that's why I put the website there for you to look at. Exporting to Canada, if you're in the food industry, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is a government department that you need to be most aware of. The next is the Canada Border Service Agency. That's everybody, when you're shipping things over, that's where it goes through. So if you go on their website and you have questions about your packaging, your labeling, the Canada Border Services Agency. Now, and if you're coming to Canada, this is something new within the last 3 years. You have to get an ETA, and you can do that online, but that's only if you're traveling by air. It's very easy to get into Canada. Nobody will have a problem as long as you have the ETA filled out, and as well, you know, if you're vaccinated as well. Next. So market entrance strategies, you know, obviously direct sales, coming over and establishing a relationship with your buyers or with a strategic partner is always the best. And, you know, that doesn't matter where you are in the world. Meeting your customers and establishing a relationship is important. Distributors and agents. It all depends on where your customer base is. Now, if you're an ocean tech, you know, you want a distributor that's in Newfoundland or Nova Scotia. If you are in IT, you may want to look at Montreal or Toronto. And, you know, Montreal and Toronto are the biggest cities for international trade because of the ports, because of the population base and the airports. So you'll find that if you're looking for a distributor or an agent, most of them are going to be located in that area. But it depends on your business. So if you're in the film industry, you may want to look at Vancouver or Toronto. If you're in anything that to do with oil and gas, you know, you might want to look at Newfoundland or Alberta. So it all depends on your sector is where you're going to find a distributor or an agent. Now, obviously, you also want someone that works across Canada and also has ties across Canada. So your distributor might be in Toronto, but they could have somebody that they work with in New Brunswick or Quebec. And working in Quebec is not always the easiest as well. And, you know, what I was saying earlier about being a bilingual country, all of your packaging and labeling, if you're in consumer products, has to be in French and English. So that's something to think about. E-commerce, when we talked about e-commerce earlier, most Canadians order from Amazon. So, you know, I actually did a project recently in all different types of e-commerce platforms for consumer products. And there's many, many, many. But how do you get your product to be found on these sites is, you know, and people that go to these sites. So, you know, there are niche sites depending on your product or service that you can be on, but Amazon is the most bang for your buck. You just have to make sure that your people can find you on Amazon. Strategic partnerships. The Canadian government is really keen to help create international partnerships through innovation, and there's lots of funding opportunities. First Nations, we talked about First Nations earlier. First Nations are also keen to partner with international companies that have a new technology. So if you are into solar farming, if you're anything that's some type of innovation that can, you can work with First Nation companies or First Nation bands. Most of them have their own companies as well. So the band own companies, but that's a really good way to enter the country is partnering with First Nations, especially if you have a new innovation. Networking and meeting Canadians at industry trade shows and trade missions, and through government representatives, you know, that's also really effective. So if there's someone that you're keen to meet, you know, any trade officer in each province, they can help make the connections, or someone like myself can help make the connections. But Canadians, they're keen to network at the shows. And they like to meet people at the shows, and so it's a good way, if you know, especially internationally, if people are traveling internationally, say to the UK, then you know that they're interested in partnering. So that's a really effective way to make a partner or to make a sale. Next. Opening a business in Canada. We have lots of programs here. You know, most of it is payroll tax credits. And when you're coming, you know, you'll be working with the provincial investment and municipal investment representatives. So the federal government kind of steps back on when you're opening a business, and they sort of push that to the provinces. So it's the provinces, the provincial, and then after that is the municipal. And, you know, everybody's always fighting for a new business to come in their area, especially the rural areas, to set up and to create employment. You know, if you're bidding on government contracts, the federal site buyandsell.gc.ca, it's being changed. The site's being changed, but it hasn't been changed yet. So that's why I still have the old URL up. Each province also has their tender sites, and the government uses like SAP Ariba. So if you register in SAP Ariba, you'll find a lot of government RFPs on that site as well. We were talking about networking. So there's trade associations. So if you're in oil and gas, you might want to join an oil and gas trade association. And you want to do business here. So, you know, or food or whatnot. So that's a good way of networking and finding out, you know, how to enter various sectors. Now, when I talk about food, I'm a member of the Food and Beverage Atlantic. So like, and what they do is they set up meetings with the buyers from the big grocery stores. There's only a few grocery stores in Canada, and they own, you know, just about everything. So if you're in the food business, you really should go on their websites and register as a supplier before you come over. That's the best way. And we have a European Union Chamber of Commerce, and they're constantly doing information sessions. You know, we do have Wales in Canada, as well as your own Welsh government. We have the British Canada Chamber of Commerce, so that's good for finding partners as well. So that would be British companies in Canada that belong to this. So, you know, that's another good way of meeting people and to help your business. Next. And we were talking about earlier about innovation, and Canada has these innovation superclusters. And actually, I think they're going to be changing their name from superclusters to something else. They just had a new round of funding that will be announced, I think, this month. And there's 5. So there's the digital technology. So when we talk about areas, so the digital technology is out in BC. The protein industry, so that's all your cereals, you know, that's in Manitoba. Advanced manufacturing. I'm actually a member of the Advanced Manufacturing Supercluster. I'm one of the people that review the projects and I monitor the projects. Scale AI, that's in Montreal. And then the Ocean Supercluster is in Newfoundland. One of the purposes of the superclusters is to partner with international companies to create a new innovation. So if you have something, a new innovation, you can partner with a Canadian company, and often they also bring in universities or as well. So there's usually 3 involved, but it doesn't have, you don't have to have a university. And there's this funding out there that you can apply for. So that's an excellent way of entering the country, because there's lots of funding there, and Canada is very keen on partnering with international companies under the Innovation Supercluster. Next. So I just wanted to go over, and a lot of these points, because like I've been doing this for 20 years and meeting companies and traveling the world, and so some of these are from my personal experience as well. So the one thing we talked about is Canada is bilingual. So all packaging and labeling must be in English and French. So I recommend, so whatever you produce, to get all your labeling requirements before sending your goods to Canada. It also has to be a metric, and the nutritional labeling is different than the USA. So we're working closer and closer with the USA that we have the same type of nutritional labeling, but as far as I know, we're not there yet. So just because it's good for the USA does not mean it's good for Canada, because we have to have things in English and French. If you want to do business in Quebec, you really should have a representative who speaks French. Quebec has its own language laws to preserve the French culture. So if you're in Quebec and you're in a store, the sales clerk has to address you in French first. They're not allowed to address you in English first, even though they know that you might be speaking English. So they have really strict laws in Quebec. And I know a lot of people, when they're running contests or even e-commerce, they avoid Quebec because they have very different laws there. So if you're going to do business in Quebec, you have to find out the provincial legislation regulations. If you're going to a meeting in Canada or even online, you'll find that most meetings will start out saying that it's taking place on the ancestral and unceded territory of the First Nations of that province. And it'll also be included in people's emails and on their website. So within the last 4 years, Canada has become more and more, I'm going to say woke to First Nations, and understanding that, you know, this was their country, and, you know, all of us are immigrants that have come here. So we acknowledge that, you know, we're on their land. And when I see each province has its own nuances, and that stems from historical immigration. So if you're in Newfoundland, you'll find it's very Irish because a lot of Irish settled there. In Nova Scotia, you'll find various cultures. So, you know, in Cape Breton, it'll be Scottish. In mainland Nova Scotia, it'll be Irish, English, and German and French. New Brunswick is French and Irish. Quebec is French and Irish. You know, Toronto, totally different, because Toronto, believe it or not, is the most multicultural city in the world. And we use the word immigrants, but we like to distinguish ourselves, especially from the US. We call them new Canadians. And it's not meant to be a bad thing, it's a good thing. So anyone who has immigrated to Canada, we call them new Canadians, and we are very accepting. But like I said, each province has its own nuances. The more you go out west, it's very Ukrainian. Then when you out in BC, it will be very Asian. So like I said, Canada is huge, I had a potential partner that was in Toronto and asked if we could meet for coffee. Well, Toronto is a 2.5-hour flight from Nova Scotia. So we're so big that like it's, you have to, you know, look at those things. You know, even for me, like my little province of Nova Scotia, it takes me 5 hours just to drive to one end. So it looks small, but it's not. So yeah, so if you're having business meetings, be very aware of, you know, people just don't travel like that. Next. Trade missions. Now, I've been asked to work on trade missions in Toronto where they've hired, you know, a hotel room in downtown, and you know they want to have lunch there or not, or set up booths around the hotel room, and I'm going, downtown Toronto, that's lawyers and entertainment and the service industry. If you are a distributor or a manufacturer, you want to be out by the airport. To get downtown from the airport, you know, is a good 35-minute drive if you're driving, or you have to take the train, then parking. People don't do that. You know, if you're trying to sell to somebody, you go to them, or you create an event around it. So I always say, like, don't go right downtown if your customers are not downtown, because they will not go there. You're better off to go like an airport hotel where your distributors and your manufacturers or where people are. So unless you're having something special like a dinner with, you know, someone that's giving a speech that people actually want to see. But, you know, you're not special. So, you know, you'd have to have a really good product for people to leave their office to come meet you. So you need to go see them. Canadians are risk adverse, so they like proven products and services, and they're not often the first to try something new. So if you have a good reference, that's a plus. You really need to explain why Canadians should buy your products and services over a local brand. So price and quality is king. You know, with inflation the way it is, people like to say support local, but, you know, when push comes to shove, you know, they're going to go for the price. Privacy laws. You can't send cold emails, but people do. But this is the law. But, you know, I get cold emails nonstop. I get cold phone calls nonstop. I don't even answer my business line anymore because I get so many scammer calls. You know, I only answer my cell phone, which, you know, isn't published as much. So you can't send cold emails. So the person must have a published email address. So if you go on their website and they have their email address published, then you can send them an email, or they give you their business card. But to buy a list off of somebody and to send them a cold email, you can be reported. I've never seen anybody charged. Because if that was the case, you know, we would be in court nonstop. But that is one of the privacy laws. If you are emailing with a client and doing business, you know, 2 business days is acceptable to reply to somebody. Try not to use Hotmail. I know it's not Hotmail anymore. It's Outlook or any free email accounts, because it just doesn't make you look professional. Though I do use my Gmail, and the reason why I use my Gmail is because sometimes people's security is so high on their email that I can go into junk, but Gmail seems to get through. So sometimes it's hard emailing people because they do have high security on their computers, and always follow up with a phone call because it could have gone in their junk. Yeah, so that's really when people use Gmail, is to try and avoid that, and it seems to be getting worse and worse. So, but but it's always best to have your own, because if you're using Hotmail, people just kind of go, well, what kind of company is it if they don't even have their own email address? Next. Professional websites and LinkedIn. If you don't have a professional website, it says a lot about the company, and will someone really want to do business with you if you don't have a professional website? LinkedIn accounts is essential. The first thing people do if they're doing business with you, because people do business with people, not the company, they check your LinkedIn account and they check your bio, you know, who you both know together. So it's important that you have a LinkedIn profile if you're doing business with Canadians. They will investigate, you know, and they want to know who they're working with. Websites, you don't have to have a bilingual website unless your clients are French speaking. Other languages, you know, it all depends on your customers, but for the most part, your website can be in English. Having an online presence, so if you're selling products and services, having an online presence, whether it's Facebook or any other social media, anything to help promote your product and service in Canada, that is good as well. You know, it alleviates some of the marketing pressure off of your buyers. You don't have to fly here to have the initial meeting. And I would say it's always good to have a virtual meeting beforehand, just to make sure that they're the right fit for you, rather than having all that expense of coming over. A virtual meeting is fine. And then afterwards to follow up with an in-person meeting. Next. Etiquette. So I'm saying most Canadians are polite. Obviously, you know, not everybody is polite, but most Canadians are. So, and, you know, and I've had it where, you know, I've dealt with some people from Europe, and they don't realize that they're being impolite. And, you know, and I've wanted to walk away because I just don't like how they've spoken to me. So, you know, it's that saying, it's not what you say, but how you say it. So if you are impolite, and, you know, it'll be noticed, and it'll be a mark against your company. Since COVID, you don't have to shake hands in a business meeting, but you'll ask whether or not they want you to wear a mask when you're meeting with someone. The mask regulations has been lifted in all provinces, but people are still wearing masks. I still wear a mask when I go out. Often in business meetings, I haven't unless they've asked me to. It's just that because I'm doing a lot of talking, and, you know, and it's to see the facial expressions as well. Promptness. Canadians are prompt. So if you have a meeting and you are over 15 minutes late without a good excuse, that'll also cast a negative light. So it's not like, you know, working with the Caribbean market or South American, not at all. You know, we're very prompt. You know, our time is money, and it's respect. So if you don't respect my time, then you don't respect me, and I don't want to do business with you. Now, this is a bit of a personal one. Women do hold positions of power, so never assume they're assistants, and don't talk down or mansplain. You know, and I've been in the UK and dealing with UK businesses where I found that, you know, women were regarded in a different light than their male counterparts. Don't do that in Canada. That's just one way to wreck your business here. So when we talk about business meals, it depends on the event. So try not to organize anything after work, because people have families and they want to go home to their families, or they might have like the kids' soccer practice, or they might live a great distance. So if you're doing business in Toronto, people will drive like an hour or more to get to work in Toronto, or take the subway or the GO train. So after work business meetings, you know, it depends on what city you're in, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. So breakfasts are good and lunch is good. But when we talk about lunch, you know, I had lunch with someone from an oil and gas firm from Mexico. And they ordered alcohol, and we just kind of went, because we don't drink alcohol at lunch. There are the exceptions. If it's summer and you're outside on the patio, you know, people have drinks. You know, you might have a beer with your lunch, but on the most part, if you go back to work and people smell alcohol on your breath, you know, you could get fired. And you have to drive if you're driving home. So most people don't drink alcohol at all. Cannabis is legal in Canada, but the same thing, you know, you don't step out in the middle of the day and take cannabis and go back to work. That's frowned upon as well. So it's good to know when you're over here that yes, it's legal, but after work hours. Next. Stereotypes. Now, we have, everybody has their stereotypes in whatever area of the world that you're in. So for me, you know, people call people from Nova Scotia blue nosers. People call people from Newfoundland newfies. In business, if someone called me a blue noser, I'd be very upset because it's a stereotype. So just, you know, outside, not even outside, you know, if you're not Canadian, don't use stereotypes. And we talk about cultural appropriation. You know, I was at a trade show in San Francisco, and there was a company from Germany whose whole business was based upon Indigenous culture. So in the middle of the trade show floor, they set up a teepee and a fake fireplace. They hired models to dress in these skimpy little outfits, you know, like a, you know, Hiawatha, and it was awful. And these guys had no idea how bad it was. You know, you can't do cultural appropriation, especially when it comes to Indigenous people. That's, you know, that's just wrong. You know, when I say we're proud, you know, we're proud of our international relations, but we're not proud of, you know, the treatment of Indigenous people, you know, especially under British rule and religious organizations. So the Indigenous people were treated very badly, but, you know, that's one thing not to bring up in business scenario. We have 4 seasons, so dress for the weather, dress for the business occasion. So everything here is basically business casual. You know, when you're in the Caribbean, you know, women are supposed to wear nylons with their skirts and dresses. Not here. We don't do that. So we're very casual, but dress for the occasion. Depending on what it is, you may wear a suit. Don't point or whistle at people. It's considered rude. Next. And most of all, we're not Americans. So don't assume that just because we're Canadians, we're like Americans. You know, we have gun laws. We have somewhat free health care. We use British spelling for most of our words, and we use the metric system. And as well, Coronation Street is very popular. I've been watching Coronation Street since my early 20s, and I'm in my 50s. So, so I've been watching Coronation Street for like 30 years. And we watch a lot of British TV here, not just American TV. So I think that also has to do with our sense of humor as well. So that is my presentation. And I'm very happy to talk to you about Canada today. And if anyone has any questions when this is over, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Yeah, thanks so much, Darlene. That was brilliant, and I'm glad to hear Coronation Street is alive and kicking in Canada as well. So that's great. I'm just going to hand over quickly now to Ben Simons of BCB. We can do some questions at the end with Darlene or with Ben, or you can always follow up after the presentation with any questions. We'd be delighted to help with those. So Ben has got his own slides. He's going to put them up now, and I'll hand over to you, Ben.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Can hear you.
Just checking because we had a power problem overnight. So yeah, bit of a panic this morning. Good morning, bonjour, Borada. My name is Ben Simmons and I work for a company called BCB International, and I have 18 plus years experience across a wide range of subjects relating to international trade. I'm going to keep this pretty brief because we all got other things to do today, but BCB is a manufacturer of survival equipment. We design it, we build it, we supply it. ISO 9001, 14001, and our mission statement is saving and protecting lives through hostile environments. That, in a real life scenario, is the kit that a fighter jet pilot has on him or in his seat, or the first aid kit in a cruise liner's life raft. So if you have to evacuate, our product is there to get you or the pilot home safely. We also do a few other things which I'll mention at the end. The relevance to Canada was a camouflage cream contract. So face paint for soldiers, makeup for soldiers, want a better description. We've done it for the UK Army for 40 plus years, and we have some unique selling points. It's edible, believe it or not. It also has a very high sun protection factor. We do it as a compact, so a mirror and 3 colors. You can see what you're doing, also in lipstick type sticks. So you just put it on, but you don't have to touch the cream. You don't get dirty. Canada wanted it in a squeezable tube, the toothpaste type tube. We won the contract. We were very happy. And now we're back to where we were when we started, before we had that contract, which is, I'll change the slide, how we start. So we subscribe to tender search engines. So one for our industry is called DCI. I can share the links after if anybody's interested. A trader association is ADS, and Buy and Sell Canada is also a good place to look. But that's not the end of the story. We need a local distributor. We have to have one. We deal with too many people, too many countries, too many different cultural differences to be correct every time. If we have someone in country that's fighting our corner in return for their cut of the pie, unfortunately, but that's how business works. That's our best case scenario. Not forgetting Welsh government. I'll come back to that, but they're very useful. So from my experiences, oh, sorry, I missed one point. When we sign up to the trade search engines, DCI, for example, we specify the most precise category of product. So we don't pick, for example, boots or footwear, and we get every type of footwear, dress shoes, military boots, fashion shoes. We specify the most relevant one. So we would pick protective footwear for desert soldiers, for example, something so precise. Otherwise, we are inundated every moment with things that match any possible footwear requirement. Just a little tip I've learned over the years: learn what the code is, or what the commodity tariff might be, or however it's indexed. Find out the one that's precisely related to you. That absolutely precise. If you get no results, then go up a level or go to the top level and manually check that there are results there. There might just not be any for you. But if you pick a generic one, you will just get bogged down and miss the one you're actually looking for. Multitasking. So, as I said, having a local distributor is very important to us. We use a company called Rampart. They are amazing. They are great. The little video you're watching is of their event they put on. They put their own show on each May. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend this year, but it's under a big tent, 300 invited procurement officers from across all of Canada and 20 or so suppliers. They put us under a tent, and the magic, no correction, sorry, the business happens. but it's an excellent event that they put on at their expense. We have good fun doing that kind of thing, and that's important. Important to know when you sort of have an agent, to what lengths are they prepared to go to. Lost my train of thought now, sorry. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm not chasing Canada on a day-to-day basis. Follow up occasionally, email, occasionally phone. Because of the time difference, though, I am entirely conscious that I need to be available later in the day than in the morning. But that's life. I've also learned Canada is not part of America. They may drive on the wrong side of the road, which is terrifying when you're there. They may speak a different language, French, but they're definitely not American, and that's quite important. Shipping to Canada is like shipping anywhere at the moment, and for a long time, pain. But I know a few good freight forwarders. I know my agent's freight forwarder. We have open conversations. We share drafts of documents. I've not had a problem so far shipping to Canada, touch wood. And the other thing I've learned recently, part of the big contract we won, is the trade agreement. So I believe it's now the TCA, Continuity Trade Agreement, I believe. I would stand corrected, I have a link for it. But that's very important. It means a little bit more paperwork for me, but a lot less money for the agent. They don't pay import tax if the item is made in the UK, which is a big thing. Any free trade agreement where the cost of the item is the cost of the item and there's no tax and duty to pay on arrival, very important. And that rounds me off. Apologies for going super quick. The links on the screen are some that I find really useful. So if you're not aware, Welsh Government, Business Wales, very useful tools. So an ITD, an ITO, and a trade mission must do. Brilliant events, brilliant things to do. Sign up to them, go for them. Export Hub, it is free, absolutely free. You can get a little lost in because there's so many bits to it, but routinely jumping on there and finding out an answer I didn't already know, very useful tool. Third link, Kim Illman, an Australian Formula One photographer, travels the world following Formula One, not necessarily relevant to Canada, but because he travels the world, he's videoed his entire trips and comes up with some clever travel tips. So YouTube, Kim Illman, not sponsored. And the last one is Sand Security, very good cybersecurity company, very useful, free stuff, paid stuff, educational. Yes, with Iraq, so with Ukraine and Russia being a cyber war as much as a physical war, that's hot on my agenda for other things I do. If you like the links, my email address is bs@bcbin.com. Drop me a line and I will share them as soon as I've fixed a few things here at my end. And I think that was it.
Ben, thank you so much.
Sorry, it was rushed, Terry.
No, absolutely. No, you made some really good points and resonated a lot of Darlene's points. So I know it's always, everyone likes to hear from someone who's actually doing the job on a day-to-day business. So that's really useful. Thank you. And for being such a good supporter of the Welsh Government programmes as well. So just last but not least, I'm going to hand over to Hugh Roberts, Head of Trade Policy at the Welsh Government, who's going to talk about the trade agreement that Ben just referred to.
Oh, that's great. Thanks a lot, Terry. And good morning, everybody. It's lovely to meet you all. I'm only going to spend a couple of minutes on this subject of free trade agreements. It can be a pretty dry subject, actually, but a really important subject to you when you're looking at starting your export journey, looking at getting into countries and regions like Canada anyway. And just reinforcing really what Darlene and Ben have said this morning, it can have a big impact on the way that you view and you approach your market. Well, if you could go to the first slide, please, Nick, that'd be great. Thanks. Obviously, you know, as Darlene and Nick alluded to, the trade agreement, the free trade agreement that the UK now have with Canada, really is a legacy one that we took over from the time that we left the EU in 2020. And it's really our role within Welsh Government, my department really, to represent the interests of Wales and feeding into the UK government during the negotiations of the free trade agreements, of which Canada is one at the moment. So the reason why we're renegotiating, the UK government are renegotiating the UK-Canada free trade agreement, is that they are time sensitive. So it has to be done, even though it rolled over, it has to be renegotiated anyway. So, but just to give you a little bit of background, you know, to date, the UK government has signed three new trade agreements since leaving the EU, renegotiated one with an existing FTA with Japan. So they've done Australia, New Zealand, and a digital trade agreement with Singapore. Importantly, Canada is also a member of what we're calling the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, which may down the line have a more beneficial sort of effect to you actually getting into other markets associated with CPTPP. We're yet to see how that's going to pan out, but there may be opportunities there anyway. But really, you know, exports from Wales to Canada around the sort of 200 million for goods. We haven't got the services element of it, which is a very, very important area for Welsh companies going forward anyway. But if we can just go to the next slide, Nick, that'd be really great. So the TCA, which both Ben and Darlene alluded to, was signed on the 1st of April 2021. I said it's a legacy agreement with the UK and the EU, and it's under negotiation at the moment. Timings are very difficult to sort of predict when it comes to free trade agreements, really. But you know, maybe by the end of the year, around that sort of time, they'll have more concrete sort of information in terms of the actual ratification of it itself. But the good thing is, you know, is that you can take full advantage of the free trade agreement as it stands now, and hopefully, as the negotiations progress, they may get enhanced, which makes it even better for you as a Welsh company to trade with regions like Canada anyway. I've put a list there of the agreements, the current agreements under the TCA, really. As Ben said, you know, it's really important when you're looking at your particular tariff classification code is that you get the right one for the product or service that you've got. It makes a very big difference anyway. But I just really want to reinforce, you know, free trade agreements are there, you know, to really provide you with Welsh companies with the greatest opportunity of getting into those markets. And I know Andrew and his team are there to support you really when it comes to all aspects of looking at your export journey, of which, you know, if you needed more information about free trade agreements or the intricacies of those kinds of things, that they've got the programs to support you on that anyway. But you know, no better way to sort of get an introduction into the market than, you know, signing up to one of the Welsh Government overseas trade missions and taking advantage, as Ben has sort of given us the examples this morning of ITO and ITD, really to support you on that front anyway. So you're not alone in exporting. You've got a lot of support around you to look at new markets. And I just wanted to reinforce that this morning anyway. So thank you very much for your time. Sorry, you're on mute, Terry.
Did press it, it didn't work. Yeah, we're sort of coming to the end of our session now. If there is anything that anyone wants to ask right now, we're happy to take a few questions. And as I said before, we're happy to follow up with companies that have questions about Canada later on. But otherwise, Andrew, I don't know if you've got any final words.
I think, Terry, Max asked a question of Darlene earlier about the, I think it was the link she sent, the name of the website, sorry. Max, is Max still on the call? No? Okay, I think Max has dropped off, Terry, but it was the website Darlene mentioned at the beginning of her presentation, I think, about the different sort of connections, etc. So maybe we can follow up on that, Darlene.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. Happy to.
I'm just going to add really to some of the comments mentioned there by Hugh and Ben. Hugh, yeah, I think Hugh, you will agree. Really, you've been a trade advisor. You've worked in our offices in Brussels. Now working on obviously trade agreements. So you've worked right across the full sort of export journey as you've described, really. And I can only really re-emphasise what Hugh was touching on, and Ben, that we are there to help you as international trade advisors. You know, I was in Dubai a few months ago at a big exhibition we were holding there, Arabelle, and there were some companies who took advantage of ITO. And there's a lot of acronyms, and you know, but we can break those down for you, international trade opportunities. And there were companies who had an itinerary set for them before they went on set. All their meetings were arranged for them. We did the yards through excellent practice like IBDG and others we've got on our framework. So you can just carry on with, you know, the day-to-day side of things. It does come at a significant expense, but that expense is currently with Welsh Government. So it's a real excellent way for you to emphasise on that. And obviously with our trade mission, our trade missions program, you know, lots more companies are, you know, are just eager to get back on the plane now, get back out to market, see the whites of the eyes of their sort of potential customers, existing customers, and what greater way trade mission in September at a heavily subsidised cost to, as I said at the beginning, get your toe into the water or to get back out there and meet your existing representation, really. So I just wanted to kind of re-emphasise that. And also just to really thank all our speakers today. Really appreciate it, and of course for all our SMEs on the call today. Really hope you found it useful. I know Darlene sort of logged in at 6 o'clock, she was saying this morning, so special thanks also Darlene in lovely Nova Scotia over there. As I said at the beginning, we will send a short questionnaire out. If you can fill it in and send it back, that'd be great. It does help us shape these type of events for the future. And again, you know, if there's any questions that you've had beyond today, please do send them through. Nick will follow up the contact details. So, and of course, this will be recorded as well, so we'll send the link there as well. So, any further questions? Anyone wants to turn the camera on or ask any questions before we sign off? Okay, guys, that's that then. Okay, well, we shall leave. John, did you want to say anything? Sorry.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you. Just wanted to reiterate your sound, but it sounds a little bit like you're underwater at times. Just to reiterate the point you made about the trade mission going out to Canada in September. There's details on the website, and companies that are interested to take a full advantage of that kind of international trade opportunities, which is sort of an appointment setting, meeting arrangement sort of process, actually, in some senses. If you are interested, the sooner you can sign up, the better, because they're better able than our suppliers and our contacts and help you with those meetings. Any questions about that trade mission, please give Andrew or myself or one of the ITAs a shout. And yeah, thank you. It's been a great presentation, really interesting to hear those details, so thank you.
Thanks, John, and apologies if my sound was going in and out. I don't know what was going on there, but many thanks.
I think you were
all.
fine. I just wanted to, really kind of ram that message home,
Thanks, John. Okay, well, many thanks, everyone. Have a brilliant day, and like I say, please do get in touch. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye for now.